Google Slides as well. Okay, so I'm glad to know that you guys found some interesting things about Hank Aaron and his life. Logan said the thing that he most appreciated about learning about Hank Aaron was that he had a dream and he followed his dream, right? He had a dream that seemed impossible to those around him, that probably seemed laughable to those who were coming up alongside him in the Negro Leagues on teams like the Clowns. And once again, how demoralizing would that be to be telling people that one day I'm going to be one of the greatest players that ever lived in the major leagues, and the only team that would take you on is called the Clowns. Interesting. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's see. We've got one more. 76 is when he retired. Good, Isaac. Yeah, I knew it was. I thought it was a little bit later in the 80s, but you're right. Yeah, and his nickname was Hammer and Hank, or the Hammer. Exactly. All right, good. So let's go ahead and get started here. You'll notice that you have two documents, one of which is this Google slide, and the other is the Google Doc. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Google Slides so that you guys can see what the activities are that I have planned for you today. And remember that today is Wednesday, so it's an early day, so you'll notice that this activity is a little bit shorter, a little bit less rigorous, but still a good way to launch into our unit on Black History Month, and a good way to practice the skill of determining central idea and finding the supporting details. Isaac, can you do me a favor and pull up slide number 2 and read me the directions? Can you read me the directions real quick?
Use Unravel negotiate page as well as the tree map provided to determine the central idea of the text. Locate at least 3 details from the text which support the central idea and include them in your tree map. When you're finished, complete the written response prompt on slide 5.
Okay, good. So before we get started, guys, let's go ahead and let's just highlight what the instructions are so that you don't miss any necessary steps. First, you're going to use the Unravel annotations page as usual. Okay, that's a must when we're reading informational text. Okay, we know that. When we sit down and we know that we're answering questions or responding to written prompts, we have to use our close reading strategies to do that. Okay, because otherwise we're just kind of flying blind, we're groping our way through the text, we're wandering around the supermarket, and we don't know what it is that we're there to purchase, right? It's like going to a supermarket without a list, okay? So, what is the next item? Well, then what you're going to do is you're going to use the tree map, okay? You're going to use the tree map to determine the what exactly? What is it that you're using the tree map to determine? Central idea. Remember, that's the skill that we're practicing this week. Okay, it's something that we've covered in previous weeks, but Christmas break tends to kind of create a sense of retrograde amnesia with 6th grade students, where you guys are like killing the game at one point, and then we come back from Christmas break and you forget you know how to do these things. So that's, if you're wondering, didn't we already learn central idea? Yes, and that's why we're practicing this week to keep those skills sharp, right? It's not enough to get good at running, but to continue growing those muscles so that you stay strong and stay in shape, right? So that's what we're doing. We're staying in shape right now. So what is the last instruction in the directions? Valeria, how many details do we need to locate to support our central idea? At least 3 details. Now, Valeria, if I skip over here to the tree map on page number 4, do you need to create any boxes, or have I given them for you? Right, so if you wanted to, if you found more supporting details than 3, all that you would have to do is right click on the box and copy, and then you'd have to scoot these over and then click paste, and then you could scoot these over. So if you're one of my heavy hitters in this class and you want to find more than 3 supporting details to support your central idea, then you may do that. However, remember, not all details are supporting details, right? There are details that do not support the central idea, so you need to be careful that when you look for these things, when you look for these details in the text, and again, the text is this Google Doc that I provided you with here, we need to remember that not all details support every idea, okay? Think of it this way. If you stumble across a crime scene, right, and we're trying to determine the nature of the crime, well, are we going to look at every detail in the house, or are we going to stick strictly to the details that contribute to the actual crime scene itself? What do you guys think? Are we going to look at every last detail in the house? I mean, we might look, but are we going to include every piece of detail that we find at the crime scene as evidence of the crime? If I find a small dog in the backyard, I go, oh, the dog must have been the murderer. right? No, certain details do not support the central idea, just like certain pieces of evidence do not kind of support a criminal investigation, right? And remember, all of those weeks back, way back toward the beginning of the year when we started Central Idea, we remember that we kind of started thinking about Central Idea as solving a crime, which is the only reason I bring in the crime analogy, okay? And then finally, the last thing that we're going to do is when we're finished, we're going to complete the written response prompt on slide number 5, okay? So let's go through and let's start our first task, which is to complete the Unravel annotations page. Let's go ahead and start with Valeria. What is the title? We know that when we start with an informational text, we start by underlining and rewriting the title. So what is the title of our article here?
The title is Hank Aaron, baseball great who became voice for civil rights, dies at 86.
Baseball great who became voice of civil rights, dies at 86. Very good, okay? And we're going to make sure that we put that in as a complete sentence. The title of the article is, and we're going to make sure that we punctuate that correctly. What kind of punctuation marks do I need around the title, you guys? What do we call these punctuation marks that we place around the title here, guys? Let's see, I got it in the chat. Yes, thank you, Valeria. We need to put quotation marks. Thank you. All right. Desire, what does the N in Unravel stand for? Notice that I did not type out exactly what each step stands for because I'm trying to pull away and make sure that you guys know how to do this without having to constantly flip back and look at your notes. What does the N stand for? Anybody, if you don't remember, anybody can jump in and help her. Go ahead. What does the N in Unravel stand for? Yeah, now make a prediction, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at the title. And not only the title, but we can see his picture as well. And this is, we can also look at the opening paragraph. So remember that when you make predictions or inferences about a text, thank you, Karen, what we want to do is not just make a prediction, like a general prediction, right? What if I had said something like this? I can predict the passage will be about Hank Aaron. Let's go ahead and take a vote here. What do you guys think? Is that a sufficient prediction or an inference? Is that enough? Do you guys think? Let's see what you guys say in the chat. Valeria says no. Desire says nope. Gabriella says no. Shayra says no. Julian says no. No, exactly. It doesn't have a lot of detail, says Karen. It doesn't have, yeah, exactly. Rosalie agrees. She says no. So, what we need to remember, Hank Aaron is not the main idea here. Hank Aaron is our topic, right? And when we determine central idea, we should definitely have our topic in there, but that's not where we want to stop. And instead, we want to include the topic and maybe the main idea that the author of this article wants us to understand about the topic, right? So Hank Aaron is our topic, but what is it that the author of this article wants us to know about Hank Aaron? We already know that it's going to be about Hank Aaron. Exactly, Valeria. So what specifically about Hank Aaron do you guys think the author wants us to know? So Karen says, okay, maybe the things that he accomplished or what he did. Julian says, I can predict this passage will be about the civil rights movement. So now we're making pointed and specific predictions. Julian is helping us out, and so is Valeria, and so is Karen. So let's go ahead and add all of their predictions together. I can predict the passage will be about Hank Aaron, and we'll follow what Julian said. Hank Aaron's contributions to the civil rights movement. Good. As well as, what else? What else do you think that this article is going to be about? If you looked at these pictures and the graphics, what is it that you see most repeated? And what did you learn from his little short video biography that we watched? We can say, says Gabriella, I predict the article will be about the life of Hank Aaron as a great baseball player, she says. Absolutely. That is perfect. So let's go ahead and add that to our prediction. I can predict the passage will be about Hank Aaron's contributions to the civil rights movement as well as his contributions to baseball as one of its greatest players. Very good. Okay? Go ahead and get your annotations page updated, please. And again, the reason we annotate together is so that it makes the reading experience easier for you when I release you to do your independent reading for the day. Okay, and because today is Wednesday, I will not expect you guys to do any reading plus. Your independent reading for today is going to be this passage here. Okay, and I'll repeat that at the end of the class so that you guys aren't confused. Okay, so now we're on to R for our unravel strategy. What does the R in unravel stand for? Somebody jump in and just help me out. What does the R stand for? Run through and number the paragraphs. And once again, Jesse, as always, you know I'm always going to ask this question. Why do we number the paragraphs? What is the purpose of doing this? Why do we waste our time looking at how many paragraphs there are?
So when we're asking to number the paragraph and you have something to say, you can just, and you don't remember where it's at, you number the paragraph so you know which paragraphs it is.
Okay, so that's one reason, exactly. We number the paragraphs so that we can, when we go back to cite text evidence, which, by the way, you will be doing, remember, you're citing at least 3 pieces of evidence or key details, right? When we do that, you can remember, I saw that in like the middle part of the article, and I know that there's about 10 paragraphs. Why don't I go start at paragraph number 4 or 5 so that I don't have to waste my time reading the entire thing again, right? So it helps us to do that. The other thing Karen reminds us of in the chat, Karen says it also allows us to understand roughly how much time we're going to need to read the passage, right? And this is a test-taking strategy, guys. So when you get to the SBAC, the CASP test at the end of the year, okay, and you're looking at, and I say, okay, guys, you have roughly 2.5 hours to complete this performance task or this reading passage. Well, that's when you need to go through and number those paragraphs and go, okay, I see 10 paragraphs here. That means 10 paragraphs. If I spend about 2 minutes per paragraph, it's going to take me 20 minutes alone to read the passage. And that'll, if I read it twice, that's about, it'll go quicker the second time. So maybe a half an hour of reading, and then that leaves me an hour and a half or close to 2 hours of actual planning and writing. Okay, so this is a time management practice as well. So let's go through and look at the amount of paragraphs there are. So I see, let's just go through here. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that one's kind of by itself, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21, 22, 23, 24, and it looks like about 25 or 26 paragraphs. Now, are these paragraphs actual full paragraphs? What do you guys notice when we look at these paragraphs? Look at this one here. Is this a full paragraph?
No, they're breaking up.
Right, so what does that tell us about this passage? That even though it looks, Valeria says no, there are some that are only comprised of about 2 sentences. Some are a single sentence, right? So that's another thing that when we look at this, we go, okay, I see that it looks long, right? It's 6 pages, but is it actually 6 full pages? Look at the amount of space between the text. This is the paragraphs themselves are double spaced. It looks like certain paragraphs are made up of a single sentence. So we can go ahead and add this to our Unravel page, and I can say there are roughly 25 paragraphs, some of which are only a single sentence long, right? So 25 paragraphs, that means if you notice a piece of key supporting evidence or a key detail roughly halfway through the passage, and you know that it's 25 paragraphs, and you're like, oh crud, I need to remember where I got that. Well, you know that you're going to have to find roughly the halfway mark. You just kind of, start at 25 and move backward, or start at 1 and move forward, right? And then we need to remind ourselves, there are some of these that are only a sentence long. So this is also kind of this is one of those things where we need to understand that it's not going to be nearly as difficult, nearly as time-consuming as it looks, right? And so this is also going to help to kind of lower our effective filter and keep us focused. That way we're not getting all kind of bent out of shape over a long reading passage, okay? What does the first A in Unravel stand for? Go ahead, guys.
Are you reading the questions?
Okay, are we reading the questions? Well, as far as I understand it, we need to do a few things. What is the first task that we need to accomplish here? What's our first prompt or question?
Technically, it's to make the unravel page.
Technically, you're right, Alexander. It is to make the unravel page. So we can say complete unravel. Yep, exactly. What was the second one?
Make a tree map
Yep,
with
use tree map with 3 details. Okay, and then what is the next one? Quickly, guys, we're running out of time. I'm not going to do all the heavy lifting for you. What is the last thing we need to do?
Find the central idea.
Yes, we need to write a short response about the central idea. Okay, and then you'll notice there is a bonus round or a bonus activity at the end called an extension activity. Okay, and this extension activity has 3 options as well, but I don't want you starting this one until I see that you've completed the others. This one is not optional. It is mandatory. It is something that I want you to do, but I don't want you to do it until you finish these. Okay, so what does the second A stand for?
Are you looking for confusing vocabulary words?
That's right. So you'll notice that I gave you a couple down here in the bottom. I gave you segregation. Oops. Okay, I gave you segregation. I also gave you, oops. I also gave you deceptively. And then you'll notice if you scan the pages of the actual article itself, there is at least one other term that's highlighted that I put in there, and that would be civil rights. Okay, so these are the 3 that I'm going to start you off with, but when you read this article, when you venture through, you know that you are supposed to actually scan the paragraphs and look for words that you don't understand. If you see a word that is confusing, maybe difficult to pronounce, you can always use the Google definition feature by right-clicking it after highlighting it, right? And not only will it give you a definition, it'll give you actual examples of how it's used in everyday language. It will also give you the phonetic, the spelling, right? So that you can figure out and practice how to pronounce it. So let's just go ahead and try this with segregation. We're going to go ahead and define segregation. Okay? Look, easy as that. The action or state of setting someone or something apart from other people or things being apart. So we can put this in our own words. We can say that this means to separate people into categories. Did you guys see this in the little videography that we watched about Hank Aaron, how they separated people into categories? What were the 2 categories that they separated people into in this videography? What do you guys remember?
White and color?
Yeah, that's one. So colored folks, and then what was the other one?
White?
Yeah, exactly. So they definitely, especially in the South during the Jim Crow era, they separated people into coloreds and whites, and that is what we call segregation. This idea that you can separate people based on different qualities. In this case, it would be the color of their skin, right? We've seen this play out in recent years over political beliefs, right? People segregate themselves from each other based on, oh my God, you voted for Trump, well, we can't be friends. Oh my God, you voted for Biden, well, we can't be friends, right? We see people doing this to themselves as well as having it done to them by other people. We see this happen for religious reasons, right? If you go back to South Africa in the 1970s during apartheid, it was still an issue of race, right? Whites and blacks separating from one another, okay? What about this word deceptively? Deceptively. Let's go ahead and define that one. Somebody read me the definition for deceptively.
in a way or to an extent that gives a misleading impression to a lesser or greater extent than appears.
Very good. Exactly. So think about a porcupine, right? A porcupine is deceptively dangerous, right? From afar, it might look cute. It might look like Sonic the Hedgehog. You might want to walk up and pet it. Those little quills on its back don't look particularly sharp, right? But it is deceptively dangerous to do this, right? So the word deceptively, and why is it dangerous to pet a porcupine? What is it going to do to you? What happened?
You get a handful of quills.
Yeah, not only will you get those barbs and those quills in your hands, it'll shoot them at you like missiles, right? All right, and then let's look
No,
at.
they don't.
Oh, yes, they do. Go ahead and take a look at how they do that. When they whip those quills at you, they launch them. They don't just like stick them in you. They have to kind of fire them out at you. It's kind of crazy to watch. Let's go ahead and take a look at civil rights. Let's define civil rights. Oh, it didn't like that one. Maybe because I highlighted too much. Hold on. Define civil rights. All right, well, let's go ahead and explore civil rights and see if that works. Does anyone know what civil rights has to do with?
Rights is like added or colored or slash people like Mexican, and like Indian, that kind of culture.
Right, so it has to do with the basic and fundamental human rights. The ability to own homes, which, by the way, was not always guaranteed. Even after slavery was abolished, guess what? Things like gerrymandering, they prevented colored folks from owning homes in certain neighborhoods, okay? There were groups like you guys saw in Hank Aaron's videography, like the Ku Klux Klan, which were hate groups, white hate groups, and if a colored family moved into the neighborhood, they would oftentimes set fire to your home, they would burn crosses in your yard, they would commit unspeakable acts of violence to you and your family. And so civil rights are the unalienable rights that each of us should have for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness without being put upon by hate groups or by people that would not want us to enjoy our basic civil liberties. And so Krishma asked during the videography if the story of Hank Aaron had anything to do with Martin Luther King. And to that I would say yes. Hank Aaron retired in the 70s, which means he was active in the civil rights in the 60s, right? Which is when Martin Luther King was also active in the civil rights movement in the 60s. And so you guys are going to learn a little bit about this, and I'm going to go ahead and spend the next 2 minutes. I'm going to show you guys, if you guys open up the extension activity slide and use this link, it's going to take you to the Encyclopedia Britannica, and it's going to bring you to a page on Hank Aaron and his life. And you'll notice that it's not a tremendous amount of reading, but it's a good kind of summary of his life and his career. And what you're going to do for your extension activity is you have 3 options, okay? You're going to visit the link and learn more about Hank Aaron's life. And when you're done, complete one of these following activities. You could describe some of the hardships which Hank Aaron overcame either in his personal life or in his professional career as a Major League Baseball player, and then discuss a time in which you overcame adversity, meaning difficulty, in your own life. Talk about a time where you had to just keep your head down and deal with it, and you came out successful on the other end, or that you had to work hard to fight through some difficult situation. Maybe a family member was sick. Maybe you were really sick. Maybe mom or dad lost a job and you guys had to spend a few months, really just kind of buckling down and not doing a whole lot. Maybe you could talk about COVID and how you've maintained your social and mental health during COVID. Okay, so that's one option. So you'll discuss some of the things that Hank Aaron overcame, some of the difficulties and adversity, and then you'll talk about some that you've overcome in your own life. Or you can write a short fictional account from the perspective of Hank Aaron. Use research from the Britannica link to help inform your narrative. Be sure to include strong verbs, vivid descriptors, and dialogue. And you can do outside research for this as well. So this one would be you write from the perspective of Hank Aaron, or maybe another colored baseball player playing in the major leagues or even in the Negro leagues. I'll accept either of those. Okay. And then the third option that you can choose is to choose one scene from Hank Aaron's life and represent it visually. So that means you can draw a picture of it. You can paint it digitally using clip art. You can use magazine clippings. You can use any kind of visual medium that you would like to, and then use your camera to upload your submission. So you only have to choose one of these options, and I don't want you to start the extension activity until you have completed the Unravel, which we just finished together. Okay, so that part's done. You can go ahead and check that one off. Okay, you can go ahead and check that part off in your directions page, right? We've done that. Now you need to do the tree map, and then write your short response. And once you've done those two things, okay, and I've provided you the space here to do them, you will choose an extension activity, okay? And this, again, I'm going to repeat, because today is Wednesday, I'm not going to, and since you already have a good amount of reading to do, I'm not going to expect you to do Read Plus today, okay? Is everybody clear on that? I am going to assign 5 easy problems on NextGen, but it is Wednesday. Okay, so instead of Read Plus, what is your actual asynchronous activity that you need to do?
Read the passage.
Okay, not only read the passage, that's part of it.
Answer the question.
Answer the questions. You need to make sure you get those done. And yes, Karen, civil rights does involve basic freedoms. Yes, it does involve human freedom. Okay, can I go back to the Unravel page? Yes. Ooh, excuse me. Let me go back to the Unravel page there. And there you go. Get your notes caught up if you need to. Okay, if you were kind of behind on the notes or if I was moving too quickly, here are the notes. The title of the article is Hank Aaron, baseball great who became voice of civil rights, dies at 86. When I put the quotes in the wrong spot.
Mr. Stockman,
Yes, Mr. Camacho.
I did something. Hold on. I drew something. Hank Aaron. Did I say that right?
So here's what I'm going to say, Jess. If you've already started a drawing about Hank Aaron, okay, here's what I want you to do. There's no way in like the time that you were supposed to do the Unravel page that you could have like finished a full drawing. So I want to see it, but I want to see it when it's done. And I want to see it after you take a picture of it and upload it for the extension activity. That way I see the full, beautiful finished product of it, okay? Okay. I want to see it, I do, but we've got people catching up on notes, and so I want to make sure that everybody has what they need to be successful before we start with the actual visual representations, okay? Let's see here. What if we don't finish the assignment on our asynchronous time? Well, then I suppose you better have mom or dad call me and explain to me why you didn't get your work done, Karen. What I can do is this, you guys. Tomorrow we have first period as well. And so what we can do is this. Tomorrow morning, if I see that you didn't finish, we can devote the first half of first period to finishing, okay? But I'm going to tell you this much. You're not going to be able to finish all of this first thing tomorrow morning if you don't at least start it and get it worked on. So I'm going to leave the submission time where it is, midnight tonight. That way tomorrow morning I can comb through and I can hand them back to you, right? And I can see who actually put in the work to get it done. That way I can give you your participation points for today during your asynchronous time. And that way the people, Karen, that I know, and you know who you are, the people who are not going to do it at all, that way they don't get the same level of credit that someone like you will get for having put in half the amount of work or a quarter of the amount of work that you usually put in. Okay? Does that sound fair, Karen? Okay, cool. All right, guys. Does anyone else still need the Unravel page, or are you guys ready for me to go ahead and release you to get your asynchronous time done? And I'm going to go ahead and throw Go Guardian on to make sure that you guys are doing what you ought to be doing. Today at 10 o'clock, you will be going to second period, and it is A day, okay? So make sure that you are in the right class. It is not B day. It is A day today, and you will be going to your second period A day class. Does anybody else need the Unravel page before I cut you loose? Okay. All right, guys. I'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning. Make sure you get this stuff done. The submission time closes at midnight. You have plenty of time to get this done, okay? Does the drawing have to include Hank Aaron, or could it be like a drawing of something that happened in his life? It could be just a scene from his life, Valeria, but it would be hard to draw a scene from his life without him in it, right? So yeah, make sure. So if you do a little bit of outside research, you guys, yeah, do, you know, and make sure the drawing. Look, it's an extension activity, which means, oh, Jeremiah, is that your baby sister? Adorable. How cute. Make sure that you're putting in the effort, guys. Okay, it's third quarter. It's crunch time. Karen, let me double check with Mrs. Waywalk about Science Fair Club after school today, and I will get back to you today. I don't know if she's going to be able to make it, but I will let you know. Okay? I'll email you guys. Okay, guys. Have a good afternoon. Get this done.
Bye.
Bye.